Hey guys, I'm Law and welcome back to another What If video. This is what if Asta had Apocalypse's powers. Now for context, this is an overpowered godlike Asta that has a different goal than becoming the Wizard King. This Asta also has a harem, 3 of the girls from Smen Marvel and 1 girl from Black Clover. Try and guess who. Anyways, I hate long intros, so let's begin. In the world of Black Clover, the world is run by magic and mana. This especially rings true for the Clover Kingdom, where the more mana a person possesses, the higher status they are in society. That is why nobles and royals usually possess the most mana compared to the other civilians in the Clover Kingdom. However, because how the world runs on magic, this caused a massive amount of discrimination between nobles and commoners. On the surface, the Clover Kingdom looked like a nice place, but its society was corrupted with various crimes done against the commoners such as theft, torture, human trafficking, murder, many horrendous acts. Those with low magic power lived out in the Forsaken Realm, and quite a lot of them struggled to get by with the jobs they had. The way for a commoner to truly make something of themselves was to become a magic knight, but even by some miracle a commoner did get accepted into one of the magic knight squads. It wasn't uncommon for them to be looked down on by their own squad members, with some even being killed by their supposed comrades. All in all, you need mana to survive in the Clover Kingdom, and a lot of mana at that to succeed in this society. But what if that wasn't the case? What if there was a choice? A choice to either stay in this discriminatory country where your worth was decided by how much magic you were born with, or have a choice to be in a country where the amount of magic you had didn't matter. Where you didn't have to survive, but were given a chance to live with happy smiles on everyone's faces. What if there was something or someone that had the power to make that dream a reality, and what if he was in the Clover Kingdom right now? In Hage Village. In the small village, 2 5-year-old boys, one with ash blonde hair and one with raven hair, were currently helping a nun take down the laundry and heading back to the small church where they lived. The ash-haired boy loved out into the distance to see the giant demon skull head that was left after an ancient demon was defeated by the first Wizard King. The boy had a huge smile just thinking about the stories he had heard of the Wizard King. The smile was noticed by the nun and gave him a small smile. What with that smile, Asta, the nun known as Sister Lily, would in a motherly tone, already knowing what Asta was probably thinking. "Oh, I'm just thinking how I'm gonna grow up to be the greatest Wizard King," Asta said, giving a toothy grin, and Sister Lily giggled at Asta's antics. "That sounds like a lovely dream, Asta. Say, Yuno, what about you? What are you gonna be when you grow up?" Asta asked the raven-haired boy now known as Yuno. I don't really know," Yuno responded in a very shy tone. "That fine, Yuno, you have a long to think about what you're gonna be," Sister Lily said, reassuring the raven-haired boy MTO, which he just nodded at the response. The 3 mages arrived at the church to meet Father Orsi and the other kids in the church. They spent the rest of the day doing chores and talking amongst themselves until they went to bed. A couple of days later, a group of magic knights would be assigned an investigation in the village of Hage due to some bandits hiding out and making an escape from the commoner realm to the Forsaken Realm where Asta lived. "Hey Yuno, I hear some magic has come to visit the village, come on, let's go," Asta yelled excitedly as I wanted to see the magic knights that protect the country. "Coming, Asta," Yuno said softly as both boys ran to the center of the village to see what some other commoners gathered around whatever was in front of them. The 2 boys heard some screaming and made it to the front of the crowd to see what was going on. Bam sizzle, bam sizzle. Came the sounds of someone screaming in agony and the sound of flesh burning. Please stop. I said I gave up." A man yelled out in pain as he was bruised and had multiple burn marks on his body, with his clothes also burnt. In front of the man were 3 magic knights wearing purple robes. The one in the middle of the 3 knights looked like the leader of the group as he held a fireball in his hand. "Now why would I do that to some commoner scum?" the leader said, giving an evil smirk to the man that was pleading for his life. Please. I just needed money for my sick mother. Why you can take me, just give her the help she needs," the man who was identified to be the bandit who pleaded out. "You make me sick," the leader replied without any remorse as he shot the fireball towards the pleading man, burning him. His screams pierced the air as many of the commoners that watched this couldn't help but feel sorry for the man, but this was the reality they lived in. They didn't have the power nor the courage to stand up against the magic knights. "Hey, what's wrong with you?" Asta screamed out from what he just saw. He couldn't believe that a magic knight would do that even if that person was a bandit. "Ha! What did you say, kid?" One of the magic knights that had black hair said, sneering at the kid who yelled at them. The commoners began to disperse, not wanting to get involved with what was about to happen. Hey Asta, come on, we don't want to start trouble, Yuno stuttered out as he was scared of what was about to happen to his foster brother. Asta ignored him and continued to speak his mind. "Why were you hurting him? He already gave up." Asta barely got out what he was saying because he was immediately kicked in the stomach and sent flying back and getting hit against a wall. "Asta!" Yuno yelled as he ran towards his brother that just got kicked by the magic knight. "Shitty commoner trash, should have just kept your mouth shut," came an amused voice from the last magic knight who had brunette hair. The magic knight with black hair walked towards the two boys with a pissed-off expression on his face that looked like wanted to commit murder. "You still have something to say, brat?" the magic knight said, looking down on the kids in front of him. Asta staggered to get up but glared at the man in front of him with so much disdain. "You are no magic knight," Asta said with anger in his voice as he continued to glare at the mage. Bam! The magic knight kicked Asta again, but this time he covered his feet in rock magic and began stomping on the boy as if there was no tomorrow. "You filthy commoner trash! Know your place and keep your mouth shut like the pathetic loser you are." The man raged as he continued to stomp on Asta with his rock-infused feet. The boy was in so much pain he could barely get a scream out as he was slowly losing consciousness until he heard something that snapped him out of it. "Stop it!" Yuno yelled as he shot out as much wine magic as possible towards the magic knight. This, however, didn't have much effect on man as it only made him stagger back a bit. The magic knight now turned towards Yuno as he was now the focus of his wrath. "You filthy brats really don't learn," the man sneered. "Oi, don't damage them too much," the magic knight with brunette hair snickers out. The black-haired man then used his earth magic to send a rock towards Yuno, fully intent on breaking the boy's bones until something moved right in front of Yuno. Bam crack! When the rock was sent to Yuno, Asta with insane speed moved in front of Yuno and blocked the attack with his body, though the force sent both boys skidding back. "Hey Asta?" Yuno asked the boy that was lying on top of his. "Oi, I'm not done with why." The black hair magic knight never got to finish his sentence as the leader of the group interrupted him. "Let's go, it's boring seeing brats pointlessly struggling, let's bring the trash into custody and get out of here," the leader said, walking to grab the burnt, but still alive man. The black hair man clicked his tongue at this and left the boys alone as the three magic knights collected the bandit and flew away on their brooms. "Asta! Asta! Asta, please wake up!" Yuno yelled out, shaking his brother's body, that is until he noticed something interesting. The wounds and cuts Asta had received were starting to heal at a rate that wasn't normal, but what was truly odd was that Yuno didn't feel any magic coming from Asta. Asta slowly opened his eyes to see his brother with tears in his eyes. Sobbing. "Hey Asta, I'm so glad why you're awake. I am sorry, I couldn't step in as sooner," Yuno sobbed out, holding his foster brother in his arms. Asta slowly got up from the ground, a bit wobbly from what just happened, and looked at Yuno with a smile on his face. Hey, it's alright Yuno, I'm just glad you're safe," Asta said reassuringly as he barely noticed that all his injuries were healed. Yuno gave a relieved smile but still felt a bit guilty at what just happened. Asta sensed Yuno was feeling upset, then began to speak. "Hey, let's head back, Yuno, we don't want to worry anyone back at the church." Yuno nodded at this and began walking back to the church. As the both of them were walking, they didn't say anything for a good minute until Asta began to speak. "Hey Yuno." "Yeah?" "I think I have a new dream," Asta responded to the raven-haired boy. Yuno gave a curious look and asked what his new dream was. "What that guy said, those words, bother me, I want to create a country of my image. I want to create a place where commoners like us can live a nice life, where everyone can smile. When I saw those guys disregard that person's life and calling us commoner trash, it made me think about our situation in the world we live in. It is a world where magic and nobility rule over mannerless and commoners. That's why I'm going to create a place where those things are completely irrelevant. Just watch me. Asta said with such conviction in his voice that it made Yuno shake. They then went to silent for a couple of more seconds until Yuno finally spoke. I also have a dream, Asta. Oh, what about? The ash-haired boy asked curiously. I want to be the strongest and bravest mage ever. Yuno yelled out, which was a bit out of character for him. Asta chuckled and then looked at the wind user. Do you plan on becoming a magic knight then? Asta asked. Well. It's fine if you do want to be a magic knight, I just hope you don't turn into any of those meanies, Asta said. Wah? No, never, absolutely not. Yuno yelled out. He couldn't think why he would ever become such a person. I'm just joking, Yuno, Asta said, laughing at Yuno's overreaction, making the raven-haired boy grumble. Yuno then remembered something important. Hey Asta, or what was that back then? Yuno asked the ashen-haired boy. Asta looked confused at this, and Yuno explained further. It's just that when you were unconscious you had a lot of injuries, but then they started healing by themselves. Yuno explained. Asta, hearing this, had his eyes widened, then inspected his body. Saw what Yuno was saying and realized he didn't have any injuries on him. Not only were his injuries healed, but Asta also felt different. He felt stronger, tougher and more energized when he took time to observe his body. The moment Asta finished, he then had a huge smile on his face. No way, I think I unlocked my magic. Asta said excitedly with a huge grin on his face. I'm not sure about that, Asta, Yuno said, causing Asta to look at him confused again. Well, when you were healing I didn't feel any mana, matter of fact I don't feel any magic in you at all, Yuno said. Asta stayed silent for a couple of seconds with an unreadable expression on his face until his smile returned back. Oh well, who cares, whatever this power I have is, it's not gonna change the fact that I'm gonna make a country where commoners like us can live their best lives as possible. Asta said, fist pumping into the air. Say, when you get patched up by Sister Lily, let's do some training so we can get stronger. Asta told the raven-haired boy, to which he nodded. The two boys arrived at the church with Father and Lily worrying what happened with their clothes. They both lied and said they were playing a bit too rough and had their clothes torn and dirty. Orsi and Lily didn't 100% buy this, but they didn't press any further and instead patched up Yuno's injuries. A few days later the boy began their training to get stronger. They mainly trained by themselves, and the few times that they would train it would mostly through sparring sessions. The more they spared, Asta discovered new things about his powers. Such as his ability provided him insane strength, speed, stamina, and durability. He could lift boulders 5 times bigger than an adult, run for hours at full speed without stopping, move so fast it looks like he disappears, and jump higher than the tallest trees. From the surface it looked like Asta's ability was to provide him superhuman stats, but about 3 months later when the boys started their train was when they realized Asta could do a lot more. When Yuno and Asta were sparring, Yuno was pushing Asta back with a heavy gust of wind as much as he could muster, with Asta trying to move forward. Asta instinctively threw his fist forward and something surprising happened. Asta's arm stretched out, surprising Yuno and hitting him in the face. What just happened? Oh gosh, Yuno, are you okay? Asta asked, running up to the wind user. Yuno got up and rubbed his cheek, but he didn't cry. Yeah, I'm fine, Asta, but what was that? Yuno asked, equally confused about this sudden development. I don't know, I just put my fist out and it stretched on its own. Asta then replicated what he did before, and to his disbelief his arm stretched out again, making both stare in awe. Asta stretched his arm further and further, going deeper into the forest as if it had no end to it. Asta's arm stretched for over 150 meters and still continued stretching out. Asta decided to stop and bring his arm back to its regular length. Wow, Yuno said in awe, stunned at what Asta had just done. Asta looked at his arm for a couple of seconds and inspected his body because he felt strange. He also felt that he could do more with his body than it let on. Asta closed his eyes and concentrated on his body, trying to see if he could make some changes on his body. When Asta did that, he felt his body change and begin to grow. Asta's body grew 4 inches taller and his fist enlarged to the size of his head. Holy crap! Asta yelled, looking at his fist and body, with Yuno also giving a surprised expression. Hey Yuno, check this out! Asta yelled as he jumped high into the air and stretched his arm out, using his hand to grab a tree branch, and began swinging all around the forest, leaving Yuno in even more awe at what Asta was doing. Woohoo! Asta exclaimed out, enjoying the sensation of swinging from tree branch to tree. 5 years later. It had been 5 years since Asta had discovered his new powers, and he had been experimenting with all the possibilities he was able to do with his powers. Asta decided to call his power Shapeshifter, as learnt more about his power. Asta for the past 5 years had been able to do more than just stretch his arms and enlarge his fist. Asta had been able to shapeshift his body parts into almost anything he wanted. This includes things such as his arms turning into swords, axes, hammers, his back sprouting wings letting him, or his feet turning into springs letting him jump higher. His shapeshifting ability also allowed him to change his appearance into someone completely different, and he could also change the mass and height of his body. Asta really loved using his abilities to mess with his family. It was really funny when everyone was confused seeing 2 Yuno in the church. Asta was currently inside the demon skull and was doing some more training with his abilities. Though each day it was getting harder to get stronger, as it just seemed like he plateaued in strength, and he already had a very good grasp on his ability that he wasn't sure where to grow from there. So Asta would then do some thinking about his life and the future. It has been 5 years since that day, and almost every time I can't stand being in this country. Asta thought to himself. When Asta was training or doing chores, he would go around Hage and sometimes see how dependent everyone was on magic. Not only it seemed like other commoners seemed to discriminate against each other that had little magic. Asta thought to himself on how he was going to make a country of his own, though as he was thinking that he kicked the ground with too much force, making it crumble, leading Asta to fall in the hole. Whoa! Asta yelled as he quickly caught himself sprouting wings from his back and slowly descending to the ground. When Asta's foot touched the ground, he looked around the area, and it seemed he was in some sort of tunnel that led deeper into the ground. Where am I? The ash-haired boy thought to himself, looking at the tunnel ahead of him. Out of curiosity, Asta went down the tunnel to see what was ahead. After a minute of walking, Asta came across a metal door that looked surprisingly still sturdy after God knows how long this door had been underground. I wonder what's inside, Asta thought as he tried to slide the door open but didn't have much success. Asta then took a different approach and stepped back a bit. He then enlarged his fist and punched the door with a good bit of his strength, sending the door flying inside. Asta walked inside and had his jaw dropped at what he was seeing. Inside was a large room that had metal all over the interior, with screens placed on the walls and control panels. There was also some chairs and other doors that led to somewhere else. No way, where am I? Is this some sort of lost technology? Asta sounded out loud, still in awe of what he was seeing. Though there was barely any light visible, as there was no power and the room was underground. The only light allowing Asta to see was the few pipes that were glowing red. Asta walked around the room to then see something that caught his eye. Inside was a tube surrounded by glass and metal that looked like some large metallic seed that had a red gem in the middle that was just floating in mid-air. The metal around the seed upon closer inspection actually looked to be alive. What is this? Asta muttered to himself as looked closer. Asta couldn't tell why, but his instincts were telling him to touch the seed. Asta's childish curiosity got the better of him, then turned his finger into a hammer and broke the glass. He then slowly put his hand forward to touch the seed. The moment his fingers were just a few centimeters close, the seed turned into a metallic liquid and shot itself onto Asta's body and began spreading out. Wah! Asta screamed in agony as the metallic liquid went around and absorbed inside the boy's body. The pain suddenly stopped and Asta soon passed out onto the floor from complete exhaustion. 3 hours later at the church. It was currently the evening and Asta still wasn't back from his usual training spot, making some of the residents in the church worry for his well-being. Hey, I'm gonna look for Asta, he should have been back by now. Yuno was already outside of the door ready to search for his foster brother. That is until he stopped and squinted his eyes to look at something coming from the sky. Is everything okay, Yuno? Sister Lily asked the raven-haired boy as she was also about to find Asta with Yuno. Something's coming from the sky, Yuno responded as Sister Lily also looked to the sky to see what was coming at them. They both stared at it for a while until they recognized the familiar figure of Asta coming at them. It wasn't strange to see Asta fly, hell, even Yuno was able to learn how to levitate and was gradually getting better. The thing was that Asta usually flies with his wings, this time he was flying towards them with no wings on his back or arms. Yo, Asta casually said as he descended down to the ground. Where were you, Asta? We were worried, Sister Lily said with concern in her voice. Sorry, I was doing some intense training and I just ran out of time, Asta sheepishly said as he rubbed the back of his head. Sister Lily sighed at this but smiled nonetheless, knowing that Asta was fine. They all made their way inside the church and got to eat dinner. 2 hours later, everyone was currently sleeping except Asta, who was thinking about what just happened when the thing he called the God Seed entered his body. Flashback. Asta, after a couple of minutes of being passed out, shot his eyes open and quickly stood up. It probably wasn't a good idea as he felt an intense splitting headache come across him. Ah, my head, it hurts, Asta groaned as if it felt like someone was splitting his head open and jam-packing information inside. The headache was gradually getting weaker and Asta was becoming calmer, though the sudden burst of information and knowledge almost made Asta pass out again. Asta's mind was suddenly filled with information such as biology, mathematics, computer science, quantum physics, astronomy, human anatomy, chemistry, engineering, and many more. Whoa, what a rush, that thing, the God Seed. It made me smarter, not only that, better, stronger, Asta muttered out, inspecting his body. Asta could feel the intense increase of strength and energy his 10-year-old body was possessing. He also instinctively knew he had new abilities, he just wasn't sure what they were. He theorized a potential ability he could have, and that was telekinesis. Asta stretched his hand out and used his mind to lift the chair in the room up in the air. Not so much to his surprise, it worked, with Asta giving a playful smirk. So I can manipulate my body into anything I want to the subatomic level, and I also got telekinesis. Man, this is so cool. Look out, world, cuz I'm coming for you. Asta yelled out in excitement. Asta wanted to see what other abilities he had, but remembered he was in a spaceship that has been underground for who knows how long. Asta did some more exploring and found rooms such as a lab, weapons rooms, a greenhouse with different plants he had never seen before, although most of them were dead. He was mainly looking for the engine room so he could bring power to the ship. He eventually found it and knew what to do, he just didn't currently possess the energy to bring the ship back to life. When Asta was done his exploring, he got out of the ship by simply using his telekinesis to float out of the hole. Man, telekinesis is the best, Asta laughed out as he began to use his telekinesis to lift various objects such as rocks, trees, and other large objects. Asta was testing the limits of his powers, wondering how much he could lift and how long he could lift them. Asta's limit so far was that he was able to lift the demon skull several feet off the floor for a few minutes. After lifting the skull, Asta was left sweaty and almost out of breath. Man, this is way too overpowered. Not only can I turn my body into whatever I want, I have a superhuman physiology, regeneration, and now telekinesis. What's next? Reading minds. Asta joked out loud as he was flying around with his telekinesis. He was having so much fun with his powers that he didn't notice it was getting late. The moment he did, he immediately flew back to the church. Flashback end. Asta smirked as he lied down next to his other siblings that were already asleep, and he had just one thought in his mind. I'm one more step closer to my goal, Asta thought to himself as he closed his eyes to go to sleep for the next day. 5 years later. It has been 5 years since Asta had gotten his new abilities, and Asta had been awakening new abilities over the past couple of years. To say his foster family was surprised would be an understatement. They even speculated if Asta was the reincarnation of some sort of ancient hero. Asta had unlocked abilities like force field creation, invisibility, portal creation, telepathy, and energy projection. Asta's new abilities had made life a lot easier around the church, as they were able to collect food easier and the chores were done in seconds. With most of the errands done, it left Asta enough time to train his powers and fix up the spaceship that he found under the demon skull. Though things really changed for him and Yuno when he discovered his new ability at the age of 13. The ability to transmute matter into anything he wanted. Flashback. Asta at age 13. Hey Yuno, come with me to the forest, I want to show you something, Asta excitedly told his forest brother. Yuno stopped his training and looked at Asta. What is it? Yuno asked with a raised eyebrow. That's a secret until you actually come for yourself. Asta said with a large proud smile on his face, making the wind mage even more confused at what Asta wanted to show him. Maybe he unlocked a new ability, Yuno thought to himself as he resigned his thoughts and followed Asta to the inside of the demon skull. They finally arrived at their location, and Yuno, so far nothing out of the ordinary other than the ground looked more flat and slightly cleaner. Okay, Yuno, you ready? Asta asked the raven-haired boy. Ready for what? Yuno asked, confused. Asta didn't reply to Yuno's question but instead looked at the ground ahead and said, "Open sesame." The moment Asta spoke those words, the ground shook and 2 large metal doors slid open, splitting the ground below to reveal a clean metallic platform. Yuno was speechless at what he was seeing and looked at Asta, about to say something, but Asta raised his hand, making him stop. Oh, just wait, Yuno, you haven't seen anything yet, Asta said, walking up to the platform. Yuno joined him and stood beside his brother. The platform slowly descended down as Yuno was doing everything in his power not to blabber out questions like an idiot. The platform was descending deeper as Yuno saw that he and Asta were surrounded by white metallic walls that had glowing white lights on the side. Just what is this place, Yuno thought to himself. They finally reached the ground floor and walked to the large metallic door at the front. Asta put his hand on the control panel next to it and the door opened. What Yuno saw made his jaw drop. Inside was the cleaner version of the cockpit of the spaceship, with working screens that had images and information on human anatomy and the sorts. Welcome, Yuno, to my playground, Asta said with a grin on his voice. Yuno looked at Asta and finally spoke to him. Where are we? What is this? Yuno asked, still amazed at what he was seeing. To answer your question, we are underground inside a spaceship from many years ago. Asta explained. Spaceship? Yuno asked, confused. Yeah, it is essentially a vehicle used to travel between the stars in the night sky, Asta said, giving an oversimplified definition. Okay, when did you find this and what are we gonna do here? Yuno asked again, amazed at what Asta just told him. He could believe there was actually something that was used to travel between the stars of the world. I found this 3 years ago. I was a lot different than what it currently was, I just did some reorganizing to the place. And to answer your other question, I want to help you get stronger, Asta answered honestly. How? Yuno asked, both intrigued and somewhat excited at the fact that he could get stronger. A few days ago, I discovered I had another ability where I can essentially make other abilities stronger. Not only can I make your wind magic stronger. With my scientific knowledge, I could make it where your body stores and releases an insane amount of magic. Within 2 to 4 hours, I can make you 50 times stronger than you already are. When Yuno heard that last part, his eyes practically bugged out of their sockets. Yuno was strong, well, way stronger than your average 13-year-old mage, but to think he could get 50 times stronger right now sounded way too good to be true. If he could get 50 times stronger right now, imagine what he would be when he gets older with training. Okay Asta, let's do this, Yuno said in a somewhat eager tone. Asta grinned at this and then put his hand on Yuno's head. Yuno was confused by this at first, but soon knew what Asta was doing when he felt a massive spike of mana in himself. His body was giving a green glow for a couple of minutes and his body was also sweating heavily but still stood firm. A minute later Asta took his hand off Yuno's head and the raven-haired boy plopped down to sit on the floor breathing heavily. Pant, whoa pant, Yuno said simply as he was catching his breath. He could feel the potent mana coupling through his body. He knew he got stronger but wasn't sure how much. Take your time and catch your breath, Yuno, then meet him in the room up ahead. Asta said, walking to a corridor in order to prepare for the next step of Yuno's development. Yuno sat on the floor catching his breath for the next 5 minutes and stood up to follow where Asta went. Yuno walked up the corridor into a room that was a laboratory. The room had several computer screens, several cylinders, glass tanks, and a counter with various chemicals. Yo Yuno, you're just in time, Asta said excitedly. He was currently filling an open tank with some green liquid and went to a computer to type in something. Okay Yuno, strip to your underwear and I'll put these wires on you. Yuno gave an uncharacteristic blush but did so and Asta put some wires on his body. Asta then gave Yuno an oxygen mask and put Yuno in the tank filled with the green liquid. Asta then injected several different chemicals in the tank with the wires sending low grades of electrical shock. Yuno soon fell asleep and this process of low electrical therapy and chemicals continued for the next 3 hours and Yuno was released from the tank. Wow, his body is absorbing and storing a lot more mana than I predicted, Asta thought to myself as he looked at the screen of his computer. Hey Yuno, you good? Asta asked, shaking him awake as he was lying on the table Asta brought. Yuno groggily woke up and looked to see Asta with a smile on his face. He tried to say something but his mouth was dry and he was hungry as hell. It was only made more apparent with his stomach growling. Don't worry, this is the second last part of your development, Asta said, bringing some food to Yuno. He needed nutrients in his body and also needed to get some rest as his body would be fully ready to perform magic. Yuno ate the food and the both of them went back home with Asta using his teleportation to bring them back. Next day. Whoosh crack. Yuno stuck his hand sending a gust of wind towards a rock. Unfortunately, he underestimated how strong he had gotten and obliterated a rock 2 times the size of his home. Amazing, I wasn't even trying and I completely destroyed the boulder into pieces, Yuno said, amazed at his own power. Not only had his magic increased exponentially, his body was a lot stronger and tougher compared to the several other mages. He was nowhere close to Asta, but compared to most mages he was superhumanly strong without the use of magic. The only problem now was to actually control this insane magic he was wielding. Yuno spent several hours each day practicing his control and was getting better each day. He could now fly at supersonic speeds and send out powerful wind attacks. Hell, Yuno was so strong at this point you would think he had a grimoire. Hey Asta, let's spare, Yuno told the ash-haired boy who was making some notes in the laboratory of his ship. Okay, let's head to the training room though, Asta said as the 2 boys walked to a different corridor that took them to one of the training rooms. The room was a large open empty space that had its walls and ground reinforced with dense concrete and an alloy 10 times more durable than titanium. The both of them arrived at the center of the room and they both started stretching, although in Asta's case it was mostly just for show as he was pretty confident he could beat Yuno. I won't hold anything back, Yuno stated with conviction in his voice, stopping his stretching. Yeah, I know, Asta replied with a smirk on his face as he also finished his stretching. The 2 of them stared at each other for a couple of seconds waiting for the first move to happen. Yuno relented and attacked first. He sent 2 massive spirals of wind towards Asta with incredible speeds. Asta didn't look fazed by this and turned his arm into a large shield, perfectly blocking the tornadoes. Yuno used this opportunity to get behind Asta and held a compressed ball of air in hand aimed at Asta's head. Asta ducked, then gave a leg sweep to Yuno, almost catching him off guard, but he got his bearings together and used his wind magic to fly back. Guess it my turn, Asta said as his eyes lit up purple energy, then blasts of optic energy were sent directly towards Yuno. Yuno swiftly dodged the beams of energy, not getting a single hit on him. Asta predicted where he was going to dodge next. He then stretched out his arm to grab his leg and slammed his body onto the ground, causing some pain and disorientation to the raven-haired boy. Asta kept slamming him 2 more times but was surprised by what Yuno did next. He focused the wind on his hand, creating a wind blade, and used it to sever Asta's arm to free him from the boy. I honestly never thought you would sever any of my limbs off in our sparring matches, Asta said as his arm grew back. You can regenerate. Still, Asta said with a shrug. Yuno started moving around the training ground to try and confuse Asta while sending several gusts of wind towards his foster brother. Asta dodged these attacks by either moving to the side or jumping up. This continued for about 5 minutes until Yuno changed his tactics. He could feel the mana in the air and unintentionally created a mana zone. A technique that even some of the most experienced magic knights couldn't do. Several wind blades were now sent towards Asta from all directions. Asta couldn't help but be impressed again with Yuno. That being said, none of the attacks hit the ash-haired boy as he made a purple barrier around himself. Asta then shot out energy beams with his force field, making the raven-haired boy move and dodge around the attacks. Yuno was moving so fast it looked like he was teleporting. I need to get past that barrier, but let's confuse Asta, Yuno thought to himself as he increased his speed and used the wind magic to leave after images of himself. As he was doing this, he was using creation magic to form a blade made of wind that moves at high speeds, used to cut almost anything. Yuno got behind Asta's barrier and attacked the barrier by stabbing it, which actually shattered the barrier. Asta didn't look surprised by this but instead smiled. Without a doubt, Yuno will be the strongest mage, hell maybe even the strongest mage in history, Asta thought to himself as both of the boys continued sparring for 5 hours straight, not taking any break until it was getting dark. They probably would have gone at it a lot longer if it weren't for the fact that they had to be home before dark. Asta didn't only spar with Yuno but he also improved the livelihood of his church. Such as he created an advanced heater for the winter, a washing machine, a freezer, etc. The best part was they ran on solar energy that could last for months on a full battery. He even gifted his foster brother and sister Nash and Rixa a hoverboard and drone on their birthdays. Present day. Asta was in his lab figuring out where to travel first and find the location he could create his country in. The years had been pretty good to Asta as he stood at 6 feet 2 inches tall in height, had longer still spiky hair tied in a small ponytail with 2 bangs each at the side of his head and a ripped muscular physique. I should probably do some traveling a bit to find the perfect place to create my country. Though I should be cautious how I take the ship out of the ground, Asta thought to himself sitting on his chair. Asta, come on, it's time for the grimoire ceremony, Yuno said walking into the Asta's laboratory. Yuno had also grown significantly taller at 5 feet 11 inches and he also had an athletic toned body, though the rest of his appearance was maintained just like in canon. I don't have magic, Yuno, so I highly doubt I would get a grimoire, Asta said with a shrug. Perhaps, but you could still make an appearance just to see what kind of grimoire I'll get. I am 99.99999% certain you will get 4-leaf grimoire, Asta said with a proud grin, with Yuno shrugging. Still, I think you should still make an appearance. Alright, I go, Asta said as he stood up and walked with Yuno to get to the church where everyone was waiting. As they were walking to the church, the civilians of Hage village noticed them and began whispering, calling them the pride of Hage, with some girls having hearts in their eyes with how handsome they were. They finally made it to the church to see Father Orsi, Sister Lily, and the kids of the church. Hey guys, Asta said with a cheerful tone as he picked up his 2 Aruru and Hollow, making them float in the air with his telekinesis. It about time you arrived, Asta. Father was already crying you had left the church, Nash said nonchalantly. Wah? No, I was not doing that. Orsi said in complete denial, causing Sister and the rest of kids to laugh. Come now, let's head to the Grimoire Tower, Sister Lily said, finishing her giggle. They all nodded and walked to the tower where many of the commoners were heading to. When they arrived inside, they saw many commoners either waiting patiently or just talking amongst themselves. They even noticed a few nobles. Ugh, look at these peons, they truly think that with a grimoire they'll achieve something with their pathetic lives, a noble wearing blue royal gowns mocked. You don't have to tell me that, they'll be lucky enough to even work in the capital, the noble beside him said with a scoff. Many of the commoners heard this and were offended, but couldn't do anything about it considering they were nobles. Asta and Yuno also heard this, but they ignored them. Asta stayed at the sidelines as he wasn't expecting to receive a grimoire and just observed his surroundings. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, we have gathered here to perform the grimoire ceremony. I pray that you will all have hope, faith, and love as you all go out into the world to achieve your goals. Now let us commence. The Wizard of the Grimoire Tower announced as several grimoires floated out of their shelves and went to their owners. This is my grimoire. Mine's really small. Mine's really thin. Several people commented on their grimoires as they received them, but then a bright golden light filled out the room and made everyone stop what they were doing. The turned to be a green 4-leaf grimoire that was radiating golden mana. No way, a 4-leaf grimoire. Come to me. No, come to me. Many people said, stretching their hands out. The book floated towards the raven-haired wind mage. Yuno took the book and the light stopped radiating. Yuno then turned around and spoke. I will be the strongest magic knight, Yuno said as if it were a fact, making almost everyone in the room cheering for him and Asta giving his brother a proud smirk. Can't wait to see what you do next, Yuno, Asta thought to himself as he realized he didn't get a grimoire, though he didn't really care. He was making his way out until he noticed that a man covered in a hood was looking at Yuno in a very sinister way. Asta used his telepathy to see what the man was thinking, even though he didn't like reading people's minds without permission. If a person possessed a threat to his family, he didn't care. What good luck, to think I would find the jackpot out in the boonies. I just need to steal his grimoire and get rid of the witness, the hooded man thought to himself in a sadistic grin. Asta was pissed someone would dare go after his family. He was about to crush the man's mind, but stopped and thought to himself. I could easily kill him and no one would find any evidence. That being said, Yuno is gonna face many people like this. I need to know if he could be cautious. Asta thought to himself. He knew Yuno was leagues stronger than this guy but wanted to see how Yuno handled the situation. Asta broke out of the people leaving and went to hide and follow the hooded man. With Yuno. Yuno was currently walking to his own training ground to see what spells his grimoire had, that is until he heard an arrogant voice from behind him. Oi, peasant. Yuno turned around to see the two nobles that were making fun of most of the commoners in the grimoire tower. Just by looking at them, Yuno could already feel the massive headache coming his way. A filthy peasant doesn't deserve to have such grimoire. We were supposed to be the stars of the show. So hand that book over or else, the noble in blue sneered out. Yuno looked at them with a blank expression for a couple of seconds until his lips finally moved. No, Yuno simply responded. You dare dash. The nobles were about to attack but never got their chance as Yuno blew air from his lips, which sent a heavy gust of wind towards the two nobles, sending them flying back and making them fall on their asses. Yuno then realized his mana showing them that he was leagues above them in strength, that it wasn't even funny. The moment the nobles felt this pressure, they were doing everything in their power not just soil their pants. How are you so strong? The nobles stuttered out in complete fear. Though both of them didn't have time to get their bearings together as chains came out of nowhere, tied them up and swung both nobles against the wall, knocking them unconscious. Chains popped out of nowhere and then tried to capture Yuno, but he dodged them by jumping up in the air and levitating high off the ground. Yuno looked down to see a man with long hair coming out of his hiding spot. I guess a sneak attack won't work, the hooded man said in an annoyed tone. No, on closer inspection he was a bit nervous because he felt the pressure of mana earlier. Who are you and what do you want with me? Yuno asked the chain mage. I am Revchi and I want that 4-leaf grimoire in your hands. It's a rare item, it would sell a pretty penny in the black market, the man now named Revchi said, fully revealing himself. Look, just walk away and I promise I won't hurt you, Yuno said, sounding tired of this whole situation. First the arrogant nobles and now some petty bandit. TSK, don't mock me, you arrogant brat. Revchi snarled, sending several chains to capture Yuno. Bam! Revchi didn't have time to process what had just happened as he was knocked out from having his body smashed against the wall. Instead of levitating now, Yuno had quickly moved in the blink of an eye right behind Revchi, grabbed his shirt and threw him against the wall, effectively knocking him out. It happened so fast it looked like Yuno had teleported and Revchi had just mysteriously been thrown back. Yuno looked at his surroundings for a couple of seconds until he looked forward. You can come out now. Upon saying those words, Asta revealed himself by turning off his invisibility from the shadows. How long did you know I was here? Right before those nobles tried to attack me, Yuno said with a shrug, making Asta grin. The ash-haired boy then walked beside his foster brother as they looked at the sunset and the demon skull together. So 6 months from now you'll take the Magic Knight's entrance exams? Asta said. And you're gonna be traveling to build your country, Yuno replied. The two of them stayed in that comfortable smile for a couple of more seconds until Asta finally spoke. Knock 'em dead, Yuno. Asta exclaimed as he brought his fist up for a fist bump. Right back at ya, Yuno replied as they bumped each other's fist and smiled, but with the intention of achieving their goals. Anyways, that's it for the video and I hope to see you in the next one.